Let's Solve the Universe, Episode 12, with guest Tara Geraghty-Ellis. Recorded January the 8th, 2019. You can find this show and all of our other shows at lstupodcast.com. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, wherever you happen to be in the space-time continuum right now, thank you for tuning back in to Let's Solve the Universe. Time to kick off the 2019 season with a stellar episode. Not only the first episode recorded in 2019, but it was the first episode we live streamed. We're going to be doing a lot more live stream shows this year. I hope you'll tune in. We'll put up announcements on the LSTU Facebook page and on the LSTU podcast site. As always, lstupodcast.com for the latest information and facebook.com/lstupodcast for all the links to our live stream. Your guest today is the one and only Tara Geraghty-Ellis. She's the author of the book VisAble and Empowered, a book she's written to empower all those living with disabilities. She's an advocate who has dedicated her life to breaking down structural, institutional, and ideological barriers that keep people with disabilities stuck. She's a master social worker and holds her degree in honors psychology. We talked about the language of disabilities, the moment she found her purpose, and the mission that she's pursued since being part of the Global Changemakers program. She's got a wicked sense of humor, a fiery yet approachable personality, and an absolute heart of gold. Not only that, but she recorded the podcast with me on her actual birthday. How cool is that? Tara, it was an absolute honor to have you in the studio on your birthday. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome your first guest for the 2019 season of Let's Solve the Universe, Tara Geraghty-Ellis. I'll get myself plugged back in there. All right, awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah. Cool. We're live. We're on Facebook.
I love it.
We're streaming around the world as we speak.
Yay!
Tara Geraghty-Ellis, you're in the guest chair.
I love this. Thank you
awesome.
for having me.
Thank you for coming on your birthday, too.
Yes. This is exactly what I wanted to do on my birthday.
Record a podcast? Seriously?
Well, see you, record a podcast, talk about what I love and what I'm passionate about. Yes, all of those things.
Yes, this is going to be awesome. So, yeah, happy birthday. If
Thank
I could, so happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tara. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, boy. Thank you so much.
I think I even stayed on tune there.
You did.
Sweet. And here comes Zach. He wants to join the party. And for the first time ever, everyone who's watching the live stream is going to be able, and when this gets posted on YouTube and all the other social media places, you'll be able to see the cat live. He's right there. So that'll be lots of fun.
He's so cute.
He is. He's a love. He's adorable. So how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing absolutely great.
And you're going all around the country with your VisAble and Empowered book, which is recently released.
Yes, yes. The idea behind my book is that everybody who has a disability also has so many abilities and so much to offer the world. And we should be celebrated for what we can offer and who we are and what our gifts and talents are. So we need to be empowered enough to stand up for our rights and demand equal attention for all that we can offer.
I love it. And that ties in, that sounds like your personal mission too.
That is my personal mission. That's very much my personal mission. It's the way I've lived my life, my whole life. And gone are the days when I would put up with doctors talking to my mom behind my back and having secret meetings and basically deciding things and then trying to explain it in bullcrap detail or no detail at all. And it's just, you know, there's so much that happens in the world still against people with disabilities, and it's just wrong.
I mean, and there's lots of different classes of disabilities too, aren't there? So there's both the physical and there's part of me that wants to say mental, but I don't know if that's the right way to refer to it.
Well, there are various types of disabilities, and it's physical, developmental, mental health or mental illness. There's psychological. There are all kinds of manifestations therein. So the thing that sort of bonds us all isn't what we have, it's how we're treated.
Right.
It's not within us, there's great diversity, but in terms of how the world refers to us and how we are regarded from the outside, it's all the same crap, regardless of how you show up in the world. If you've got a diagnosis, doesn't matter what it is, you're going to put up with crap.
Yeah. You're just going to have to.
And that's wrong. And that's, when it comes down to infringing on your way of life and your opportunities and your joy, then it's time to start changing the dialogue.
Part of that sounds like self-advocation.
Very much. And part of it is around changing your own mindset. That's where it all starts.
Right.
Because we who have grown up believing the dominant discourse around disability have to now reprogram our own minds.
Yep.
And sort of say, no, we are capable and be entitled to have, do, and be whatever we want. Mm-hmm. And to contribute to the best of our abilities, just like everybody else, and be compensated for what we contribute, just like everyone else.
Because we've got our amazing skills and abilities too.
Right.
And sometimes, I'm sorry, but some of my friends who are disabled or who have different body configurations, they're some of the most creative people I know.
And that's because we live our lives in a manner that requires us to be creative. In order to get from Monday to Tuesday, some of us have to be so creative and so divergently thinking in this world just to be able to function, that if we were able to, or when we are able to bottle that and present that to an employer or present that as a business case, it's magic. It's absolutely magic, and it sets people on fire.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so much fun, too. Mm-hmm. It's so much fun coming up with those creative solutions. Mm-hmm. I've been going through this for the last couple weeks with my stupid fractured elbow.
Exactly. By the way, how is your elbow?
The elbow's doing quite nicely. If you're watching this on the live stream, I can move my arm around quite well. Mm-hmm. I am actually able to reach over and pick up my water bottle. Like 2.5 weeks ago, this wasn't a thing. Just doing this. So being able to do that's been quite lovely. I'm driving again.
Oh, good.
Oh, man, that was the biggest pain, is not being able, losing my transportation for a couple of weeks.
It's liberating when you're able to get back some of your abilities and some of your capabilities. That's quite liberating.
But there's so many things that I didn't realize you really do need two hands for, or you have to get very, very creative.
Yep.
You know what my biggest complaint has been through this whole process? You know the paper towel dispensers where you have to pull down with both hands, otherwise the paper towel rips off?
Yeah.
Whoever designed that, I don't know this for a fact, but I do know that they're going to hell.
Yes. There's a special place in hell for that person. Yes.
There is a special place in hell reserved for that person. Because that's just, it makes such a terrible design assumption.
Yep.
That you can grab it with both, that you've got two hands. Let's start there.
Yes.
Let's start there.
Yes.
That you've got two hands that are capable of gripping to enough of an extent that you can pull down the paper towel sheet all the way and rip it off. Sideways motion with this elbow in the first couple days.
Not going to happen.
Not a thing. Not a thing that was happening.
Yep.
Although I did drive home with it.
Oh, no.
So what, and I'll add this on, I drive manual.
Why did you try to do that?
We didn't really have any other, well, I suppose I could have got my girlfriend to shift the car for me. But at that, so let me set up what happened. We were skating and I came out of a turn and I lost my balance and I landed sideways and spiked my elbow on the ice. And at first I thought I just bruised it really good because it was sore and it was swollen. At that point I didn't think I'd broken anything because I think it was just adrenaline and shock wearing off. So after my girlfriend helped get my skates and my wrist guards off and we drove home and I realized at that moment, oh crap, I'm going to have to drive this manual car. And it was kind of a discovery process of, I can't hold my hand out this way. I got to hold it sideways because that doesn't hurt. And if I do that, if I put my whole body into it like that, and that sort of creativity to figure out how to shift.
Right. It's like, what does hurt, what doesn't hurt, what can you do right now, what can't you do right now. I had that yesterday.
Yeah?
I went through an experience 2 days ago. It was a magical experience, actually. We had a group of friends of mine and I were in a vision board activity party, and part of it was a sound healing party. It was a sound healing experience. And so yesterday, I was exhausted. I was more exhausted yesterday than I have been in years. And I deal with chronic exhaustion. So this was pretty special. So I just couldn't even pick up a bag. It was just, how do I do these things? So things needed to get done around the house. And I'm going, okay, how do I do this? All right. So I had to figure out, how am I going to pace myself? How am I going to lift things that I can't really lift? Bring things from point A to point B. And I mean, it happened. I did it. But it was all because I had to create it first in my brain and then in my body. And that's the way everything happens. You manifest things in your brain before you manifest things in your body. So if everything you manifest is can't, not able to, or everything that's manifesting, whether it's messages you're hearing from outside or things that you're telling yourself, if you're hearing it first in your brain, what's your body doing?
Yeah.
It's only obeying the messages that are up here. So you've got to start retraining your brain.
And that's hard.
That's hard.
That is a hard process.
It's hard. And I honestly, it didn't happen for me until I had to go big. I had to go to the opposite extreme. Honestly, in order for that to take place, I had to go to gratitude, which is the polar opposite of stuck or stuckness, as I like to call it. So I've instituted daily, or actually twice daily, gratitudes. And so every morning and every night, I list what I'm grateful for. And at first it was, I'm grateful for getting up. I'm grateful for another day. I'm grateful for breathing. And now I'm just a lot more creative about it.
Right. But you started somewhere.
You have to start somewhere.
Yeah. That's an interesting practice. So what got you thinking, what made you start that process? Like, what was that? Was there an event that kicked that off?
I started hanging out with different people. I truly believe the adage that you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
And when I first heard that, I went, oh my God, I'm in trouble. I was going to say a swear word. That's why I coughed.
Yeah.
And then I went, but I can change that. So it's just, I'm hanging around people who are movers and shakers and doers, and they think on a quantum level. They think on a higher plane. And it's just a daily habit of, getting up and doing certain rituals and thinking certain things and having this mindset of what can I do to bring a change to the world? What can I do to change how I'm feeling right now? Because how I'm feeling isn't about any external factors. It's about me.
Right.
And it's in my power to change it, and I can change it in an instant. That was a light bulb moment when I learned that.
You're looking for options.
I was searching for anything to make me feel better.
Mm.
And I just now have this enormous sack of goodies that I can pull from any moment of my life to make me feel good, to make me feel in control of my destiny, in control of what's happening to me, and grateful for what's going on, whether it be good, bad, or otherwise, because it's either happening for me for the better or for me as a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge mind shift as well.
Yeah. Oh, completely. I've been going through that in the last 2 years myself. I mean, we were both speaking the same night at momondays Waterloo. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a fun night, wasn't it?
That was so fun.
That restaurant we were at, it used to be a Thai place. Then it got renovated, and they've got all those game systems all over the walls.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was just like, oh man, I should be social, but I really want to play these. But it was quite the fun night. Over the last 2 years, I've been really working on, because I used to think, whenever I would think about, what's going on in my life, I would always go to the negative. I'd be like, okay, I should be doing better. I should be, at a better place in my life. Why isn't this working? If only this would work out. Like, just really being down and negative about all of it. Mm-hmm. And assuming the worst would always happen. Oh. Because my logic was, and it's kind of not bad on the surface, my logic was, well, if you expect the worst to happen and it happens, well, you're prepared for it. But if the worst doesn't happen and you get a good outcome, well, hey, you've got reason to celebrate. The problem with that, I'll let you guess the millions of problems with that mindset. You could probably identify with that right away, yeah?
They're about 1,000, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of different, and I mean, I know you've got your degree in psychology, so, you know, you can, and after reading a whole bunch of psychology books myself, I was just like, oh my God, this was really a bad idea.
The problem is that you're arming yourself. And when you arm yourself for inevitable failure or the thought of inevitable failure, you prevent yourself from trying different things. And you stop yourself from failing. You stop yourself from trying and therefore failing and therefore learning and therefore growing. And there's an adage out there, if you're not growing, you're dying. So would you rather fail and learn and grow or be stagnant? You know, and just wait for the universe to call the shots, because things are going to happen. And if you're always just kind of waiting for the next penny to drop, yeah, the likelihood of bad things happening to you is greater.
Well, and something bad's going to happen at some point, just like you said. Like,
right.
Something will happen in your life that you don't like. Right. But there's no use living in fear of that.
Right. And if you enter every situation with a positive mindset and approach everything with sort of gusto and a willingness to learn, then a failure is just another opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. It's just, okay, I found one more way that didn't work.
Yep.
On to the next thing. You know, Edison found, what was it, 1,001 ways that didn't work to create a light bulb.
Yeah.
Or to create electricity.
Yeah. The light bulb, I think.
Yeah. And then he found the one that worked. But that came from the mindset of, I want to see what works, what doesn't work. If you only want to see what works and you avoid everything that doesn't work, or you're trying too hard, that's when life's too big of a struggle, and life doesn't need to be that big of a struggle.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a struggle anyway. Why pile your own crap onto that one?
Yeah.
The artificial crap, too.
Yeah. But I mean, right now, I can actually say, my life's easy. My life is good.
We're making all the right moves, that's for sure.
My life's easy. My life's good. Am I where I want to be yet? No, I have a vision of where I want to be and what I want to do. I actually have a map of, well, it's not a map, it's sort of a description of what would be my ideal day, what would be my ideal week, what would be my ideal month. Am I there yet? No. But am I working towards it? No. Am I living towards it? Heck yeah.
Nice.
Because I'm not working toward anything. I'm just kind of putting it out there. This is what I visualize as what I want for If I could have the perfect day, it would look like blah. The perfect week would look like blah.
And you're working towards that.
And I am living with that intention in mind.
Right. Which is such a powerful thing. So few people step back and actually try to figure that out. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the easiest. You know what? I don't know if it's one of the easiest things to do, because sometimes that requires a level of introspection that some people are just not comfortable with.
Right.
As I imagine, did you have to sit down and go, here are the bits of my life that don't align with this vision, and here's what I need to change?
Sure. And that can be uncomfortable, because that can mean distancing yourself from people who don't fit. Even if those people are close friends, have been in your life forever, are family. And it doesn't mean, divorce your spouse, who, by the way, I love to death. So let's not even go there. I love my spouse to death.
You're safe.
Yeah. Todd, love you. Don't worry. So it doesn't mean that you cut off anybody necessarily. It just means that you hold your space as sacred, and you're deliberate in who you bring into your space. And you're purposeful in who you distance emotionally. It's not about actually cutting off people, not communicating with them. It's just about you going, okay, I'm not going to give my heart. I'm not going to let this person impact me. What they say or do, I will take with a grain of salt. I will take what seems to make sense for me and move on and move forward. Because not all people are equally important.
Well, not all people will transition with you to that next phase. Some people also need you in a way to stay in that old frame of mind.
Yes.
Or be the person you used to be.
Right.
To keep their world together.
Right.
In a way.
Right. And if you don't, and you upset people, I was going to, again, use a swear word, but I'm not going to. If you upset people by evolving, that says more about them than you.
It does.
I've had many, many doctors, many, many teachers, many, many people in my life who wanted me to be the old me. And I'm not the old me. And that doesn't sit well with them. But that says more about them than it does about me. I've chosen to move forward and move on. And if you're not on this new boat, God bless. Go do you.
Yep. Don't worry. Air Canada is there for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Air Canada. Love you. They've got the best safety record, so I love them lots.
Me too.
That's an interesting transition I've seen, as I've had certain friends that I have less contact with and certain friends that I have more contact with as I've gone through these transitions. The ones I have more contact with now, regardless of what's going on, they're happy to see me live my life the way that I want to. They celebrate those successes with me. One of the biggest changes, though, is that even when their lives are melting down, and I've seen a couple of meltdowns, they still find a way through it. they still maintain that attitude of, I can get through this. I can make this work. Mm-hmm. And that has been a real interesting shift. Mm-hmm. And really comforting, too.
Well, that's taking your own power into your own hands.
Right. And saying that I can control this destiny of mine.
And that everything, good, bad, or otherwise, is in your life with the exception of love and people who may be around for the rest of your life. Circumstances are here for a moment.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or otherwise.
Yeah.
So if you can ride the wave and keep your mentality about you and just know that if you're going through a tough time, this too will pass.
Yeah. It always does.
It always does.
We always survive.
Yeah.
There's never been a moment in my life where I've yet gone, ooh, I didn't survive that. Spoiler alert. I'm physically here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even in those moments where you're just desperate and thinking, oh my God, how's this going to work?
Well, there's actually a story in my book that tells the tale of one time when I almost chose to end it all.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I got so overwhelmed with transition after transition after transition in my life and felt so out of control and out of sync with everything that I think I was just looking for some way to have some control over something. It was an attempt, and it was a feeble attempt at best. I took a couple of tablets, and my roommate at the time, my friend Jen, I got so scared I actually went to her and confessed it all, and she stayed up with me all night and helped me, and I was crying. And then she tried to get me some help. Worst help in the whole wide world, but that's another story. And it wasn't her fault. It just turned out to be the worst professional help that I had ever experienced. But nonetheless, it was one of those situations where I hit a wall. And I hit a wall where I didn't feel like there was anything I could control. And sometimes all you can control is what's happening right this second, or sometimes all you can control is what goes in your mouth and out the other side.
Mm. Wow.
So that's why I have great sympathy for people who are in pain. People who hit rock bottom and choose to do drugs or have some sort of eating disorder or have mental illnesses because life is so hard. Because they just get overwhelmed and don't see the light.
Mm. And perhaps they don't have a good support system in their life. Perhaps they've never been taught any mindfulness techniques. I mean, there's so many variables at play, too.
But if you don't have the person who meets you where you are at that moment and is there for the long haul to take you to a place where you need to be, i.e., a place of empowerment, a place of control, a place where you can see your options, then it's very, very lonely. It's very, very isolating. And I've been there. And people who don't get it, people who don't understand, who have never experienced mental anguish, mental illness, pain, chronic pain, they might have all of the best intentions, but they don't have the right tools.
True.
To help someone. And you really need somebody who can meet you where you're at and say, I'm going to take you step by step, and don't worry about where, I promise you're going to get to where you want to be. Let's just worry about the next step.
Right.
Because the promised land or the horizon is too scary.
Yeah.
But let's just worry about 5 minutes from now. Let's just worry about tomorrow.
Yeah. Sometimes that's when you're down that low, that's all you can do. Yeah. Literally just, what do we do a minute from now?
Yeah.
What do we do 5 minutes from now?
Mm-hmm.
And just keep going.
Yep. Just keep going.
And those little things build on each other too. There is a snowball effect, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
I imagine, I never thought about this until just now. Have you found in your experience that among the community, say people with physical disabilities or people with disabilities in general, that, well, I'll say physical, because I feel like this was true for me to an extent, that because when you have a physical disability of some sort, sometimes it's something that you can directly see and observe.
Uh-huh.
And when you pair that up with what you're going through mentally,
uh-huh,
it almost feels like because there's a physical reinforcement, it makes the mental side that much worse. Is that something that you found?
Yes, and it almost makes the mental anguish invisible to the outside world. So, for example, when I was going through my breakdown, everybody wanted to talk to me about my physical limitations because of how I present, how I walk, and was I in pain physically. Okay, so to give a little bit of context, this all happened at the time of Hurricane Juan. So back 2006.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. And I was living in Halifax, in the only high-rise building in Halifax.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we had to evacuate. And I had just moved there. This was the first time I had been on my own. Like, my own. I had lived in residence at York, but I was a half an hour away from home. And I had easy access to my parents if I needed them. This was 3 provinces away, and I was that much more isolated, and I pretty much knew nobody. So everything was new, and this was 2 weeks after school started, first year, and it was just all very overwhelming, and suddenly I'm being displaced from the 24th floor of a high-rise that I had to evacuate in the dark and walk down 25 flights of stairs. The next day, walk back up. The next day, an hour later, walk all the way back down to be evacuated. So the next week when I had my breakdown, we were talking about the situation that surrounded it. And that's what people were focused on was, oh, that must have been difficult for you to walk. I'm like, yeah. But now we're talking about me feeling a lack of control. Now we're talking about the fact that I don't know what's going on with my head. And they were like, oh, but it must have been hard to walk. And I'm going, no, that's not what we're talking about here. And I find that, when you have physical limitations, your mental, whether you are happy or sad is kind of secondary. They either assume you're one of the soldiers who's always happy, or one of those people who's always struggling. And that's just part of the deal. Like we're sort of prototyped.
Right. Prototyped or stereotyped, depending on whose interpretation you want.
Right.
I guess, too, the physical side is just easier to focus on for other people because they can see it. Mm-hmm. And it's, yeesh.
It just gets so complicated. It's the annoyance of having one part of your being separated and inspected without context. Decontextualized from the rest of who you are.
Right.
Right? So when I talk in my book about intersectionality, I really talk about, who are we as full human beings? We've got race. We've got sex. We've got sexual orientation. We've got gender. We've got gender identity. And a million other things.
Yeah.
That make up who we are. And if somebody stereotypes us or zooms in on one aspect of who we are to the neglect of all else, that's doing a disservice to who we are as a full, vibrant human being. I also make a big point to state that every single person in existence is here for a purpose.
Yes.
I don't care if that purpose is to smile at somebody and make their day. If that's what somebody is capable of doing, that's their service on this earth.
Yes.
If somebody is capable of blinking their eyes and giggling, that's their purpose on this earth. And we should embrace that. If people can do more, let's embrace that. Let's give people the opportunity to shine for all that they can be and all that they bring to the table.
It makes me think, too, about the opportunities that could open up. I think to people like Stephen Hawking, when he was still around, the amount of work he was able to produce, despite essentially being locked in. Mm-hmm. Like, this is somebody that could barely operate a computer with his eyes and his tongue. Mm-hmm. That's all the input he had. But the incredible brain power that man possessed and was still able to put out work.
Yep.
This is why I study human-computer interaction. There is so much brain power that even somebody who is 100% locked in we could tap all of that potential one day and beyond.
We could tap all of that potential today.
True.
If we wanted to. Like, where there's a will, there is a way. And we could be doing it today. And I actually have this great mission that I spoke about on stage. So check this out. December 13th, I was on stage. I had the opportunity to join a program called the Global Changemakers. And I was trained over a period of 6 weeks to pick a project that I could develop locally and then expand globally. And then I was in amongst over 20 people. And out of 20, they picked 10 of us to go on stage and present it at the CBC building.
In Toronto.
In Toronto.
Nice.
Yes. And out of that 20, I came in second place.
Dude.
I was so honored. And so what this basically means is that my mission, which is to enable all people with all disabilities to become employed. Now, I don't mean employed in the traditional sense necessarily. That's still on the table, by the way. But that's what everybody else is doing. So, and I'm not thinking of going through the traditional channels. What I envision is anybody can come to this program, learn how to present themselves, learn how to describe what they're best at, learn what their gifts and talents are. Okay? Develop them. So if somebody's an artist, develop a portfolio. Learn how to present it to an art gallery or to an exhibitor. And take commissions. If somebody is a business person, how do you set up a proper business? Learn how to do that. If somebody wants to go into speaking, like I do, how do you do that? If somebody wants to write a book, we would take them from A to Z. Learn how to do that. It's whatever people want to do, whatever's in their heart, let that come out and then teach them the techniques of presenting it to the world. And then make the connection. Because that's the learning piece is what's missing in most of the existing programs. They're not teaching people how to present to the world and how to feel entitled and positioned and in their own right to have and be what they are.
That's absolutely beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. And it's something that's critically missing from any of the programs we've got.
So that's starting this month, and I'm pulling together an advisory team, and then we're going to start in Toronto, and then move to every municipality, everywhere.
What are you calling the program?
Employability for all.
Employability for all. Employability for all. Which is the greatest. That's incredible. And what was it that really, so there was the Global Changemakers that you spoke at, that you presented this idea. what was the catalyst for it? Like, was there a particular event that kicked it off, or was it like, I want to combine everything I know and everything I've ever done into this grand project?
No. The catalyst really was too many people that I knew sitting for too long waiting for jobs and not really getting the kind of support that I thought we need. And my own experience of going through the existing systems and being sent for job interviews and for employers that were not respectful. And it was just, I'm not blaming any one person. I'm not even blaming the system. I just think that there's a piece missing. The existing system, because I have friends who work in the system as it stands now, and I don't mean any disrespect to any of them. Individually, they're doing a great job. It's the infrastructure that has some holes in it.
Sometimes, and this is from a completely outside, ignorant observer, so I might say something that's completely out of line here. Mm-hmm. Sometimes from the outside, some of the existing supports or programs almost feel like they keep you dependent on them.
Yes. And the issue there is, again, who is benefiting from the system? Is it the system itself, or is it the recipient? Right? The program that I'm developing is going to be people with disabilities helping people with disabilities.
Well, that's something that just came to mind for me, too. I look at the system that exists sometimes, or at least some systems, and think, was this actually set up by somebody with disabilities? Or was this set up by somebody who was looking through a checklist?
99.99999 repeater % of the time, it's somebody who doesn't have a disability trying to serve people with disabilities.
And probably doing the best they can.
Yes.
That's the other thing I keep in mind.
Yes.
Because sometimes it can be really easy to just say, this person's full of crap, or this person's just evil. It's like, no, they're probably
They're
just...
doing the best they can.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to keep in mind. It's not, except when it is.
Sure.
But a lot of the time, it's not an individual who's being nasty or dismissive or evil. It's a faulty system.
Sure.
It's a system that wasn't designed with the needs of the current clientele. So we're either looking at systems that were designed in a vacuum, or systems that were designed 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago and never updated.
Yes. That's what I experienced in elementary school.
There you go.
In elementary school, what I went through was they had some good supports if you were somebody that was, had a severe developmental delay, or, just kind of grouped into the category of special needs. You were very well supported there. There were a lot of occupational therapists. There was a lot of support staff. That was a good thing. If you had a slight difference, like I do with the cerebral palsy, like I didn't need to have my own special classroom and have my own special needs. I just needed access to a computer and a printer.
Right.
That's it. But there wasn't a really good slot for me in the elementary school in that time. It was either you were of able body and able mind or you weren't.
Right.
And so getting those supports and getting that across was a nightmare of a time.
I had the same experience in high school.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I had the very same experience in high school. And I was put in their only special education classes. They had two. Well, they had a grade 10 level and a grade 11 level. Well, I ended up taking both twice. And was so good that I ended up tutoring / teaching the courses the second time around anyways. So it was just the weirdest situation. But they didn't really know how to deal with me back then because I had some very profound learning disabilities. But also very smart. And the two didn't seem to align with most people. The idea of special needs because of physical disability plus special needs because of learning disabilities, but smart as a whip.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we do with her? Okay. Yeah, so with the result, I was taking all advanced classes except for a few. Like, I was no good in math. Math was not my forte. So I didn't do advanced math, but I did advanced everything else. Right. And then I applied to university. Well, come to find out that they shredded my university applications.
The school did?
Yes.
What?
Yes. Because I was special needs and shouldn't be going to university.
They shredded your university apps.
Yep. And I only came to find that out because we all applied to University of Toronto at Mississauga, and all of my friends received their supplementary applications, and I didn't. So I went to the guidance department and was told, "Oh, I thought you had decided not to go to university." No.
That is unbelievable. I would have burned the school down.
I didn't do it. I didn't do... not only did I not do that, but I didn't do a darn thing. Except to reapply.
Right. And obviously you got accepted.
I got accepted to York.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Beautiful school.
Mm-hmm. I got accepted to Glendon. So.
Wow.
That made me happy.
Well, just to prove all those, you know what? I had a moment like that in high school too, of proving them wrong. Because I had a teacher that specifically said to me, "Do not take advanced math, and you're not cut out for university." I'm just like, "You fucker, I'll show you." And not only did I work that much harder in math, and I don't know what it is for me, but when I learn something in math, there's a 1-year satellite delay. Okay. I don't get it. I'll spend a year and just not get it. And then a year later it goes, "Oh, okay. It's clicked in." I've never understood what that's about. Okay. But, worked my butt off in some of the most advanced math classes just to get, barely an A-, just work like crazy. And not only got into university, but got early acceptance into University of Waterloo for their computer science program. Nice. Which is in their math faculty. Nice. Right?
Oh my gosh.
So it's, as much as those people can be really annoying to deal with, I've learned how to use that as go fuel.
Oh yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's that? A barrier? An artificial barrier that you want me to break through? Yes, please. Or find a way around.
Absolutely.
Those are some of the
Over,
best
under,
moments.
through, or around.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or find the weakness. Just find a way. Like a lot of these roadblocks are just like that. You find the way.
Yep. Just like when the medical system, after my last surgery, told me I was unemployable.
No, that just means somebody's not thinking.
That just means people are not creative enough to think of a way.
Yeah.
And so I created a way.
Yeah. You created your own opportunities.
Yeah.
I'm doing that too with my own business.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's just and I feel like you and I and anyone that's got a disability, we've got a huge advantage over some of the quote unquote able-bodied kids and able-bodied people because we've got such a unique selling point. Like we can turn around to the rest of the world and go, look what we did in spite of this nonsense.
Yeah.
Like in spite of the fact that my brain is a little weirdly wired, I was able to accomplish all this stuff.
Yes. Yes.
You know, what an awesome selling point.
Yeah.
And an empowering one too.
We've got to get to a point where the job market opens its doors for us as average Joes first, and then we get in the door and then we shine.
Yeah.
That's the way my husband is doing it. He got a job. And then he's just gone from entry level or one department to now he's trained in 4 different departments. He practically runs their charitable fundraiser. He's just amazing. And he's become one of the most dependable people in the place. You know, but you've got to get in the door first. And I've always said, just give me the chance. And not only will I prove you right, but I'll become indispensable.
Yeah. I'll become your biggest asset.
Yes. And I always have been.
Yeah.
I've always become their biggest asset. I mean, I hate being the poster child because I hate the ideology of the poster child because of our history.
Sure.
And how that's been used in the past and bastardized and all of that. But from the point of view of being the best kept secret of an organization, I love that. I love going in there and going, yeah, just set me up and let me shine.
Yes. And by extension, the company will shine too.
That's right.
Like this is a huge opportunity for all employers that are listening out there. If you want some of the most creative people in the world.
And the hardest working.
Yeah. Because not only do we want to prove that we can do it for you, I want to prove I can do it for myself. There is a selfish angle to this.
Yeah.
And you might as well take advantage of it.
Right. And the system as it is right now, you are, by hiring a person with a disability, you're getting not only the person with the disability, but you're getting the all the creativity, all of the support behind them. You're getting all of the accommodations that they require provided. You're getting people who are eager, who will show up on time, who will do what you ask and then some. It's just amazing.
And have some of the best attitudes on the planet.
Absolutely. Now, some people don't, but that's the same with everyone.
Sure.
But by and large, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Some of the best attitudes on the planet.
So, hire somebody with a disability. It's awesome.
Yes.
Speaking of the word disability, though, this is something we were talking about before we went on the air, which is the term disability. And I know we had discussed when you were writing your book, you were trying to write it in a way that could transcend borders.
Right.
And by that, I mean country borders. So,
country and ideological.
Okay. Yeah, that's another type of border. So the word disability, it's the word that I use to describe what I've got with the cerebral palsy. I know it's the word that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I believe it's the word that you use.
It is.
To term yourself. But some people might not be comfortable with that, or might say that that's not the politically correct term. Right. Depending on who you ask. So how do you keep up with the language of disabilities? How do you make sure that you're not saying something that could be hurtful, either deliberately or, well, I mean, being deliberate about your hurt is generally obvious, but, how do you keep from hurting somebody? How do you keep from hurting somebody, I guess? And how do you make sure that you're using the correct terminology?
Okay. So, first of all, disability is the term that I am most comfortable with. I use it in my book because it is the most commonly used in literature. So if you look at other books on the topic or other books making reference to people with disabilities, they always say disabilities, by and large, okay? Unless they're being deliberate in the use of another term. But that's sort of the default. Okay? So that's why I use that term in the book. Also, it's my comfort level. How do I not offend anybody? I'm not big on the whole political correctness thing. I will say person with disability, and if somebody says, oof, I prefer differently abled, then we'll have a conversation and I'll just switch to that language, to using that terminology with that person. So it's just a matter of if somebody corrects me or prefers a different term than I use, then I will defer to them while we're in that conversation. Will I always remember the next time? No. My memory doesn't hold up that well.
Right.
But it's just one of those situations where I'll use what I'm comfortable with, and I think everybody should use what they're comfortable with. And if you're offending me, I'll tell you. And the polite thing to do is say, okay, and then use whatever I'm comfortable with.
Sure.
So that's the way I deal.
Basically, just be a considerate human being.
Yeah.
That answers that question nicely. What sorts of challenges did you find when you were writing this book to make it portable, to allow it to transcend ideological and physical borders? I imagine that there are some differences. You were mentioning some differences in language between Canada and the United Kingdom.
Well, my family's from Ireland, and when my uncle was over recently, he was reading the author copy of my book. It was one that I was scratching through as I was making my edits. But he was reading it, and he said to me a couple of times, that's not how we would phrase things. And I sort of struggled with that a little bit, because I do want to make it readable, and I want to make it accessible to everyone. And more recently, actually, a number of people have commented on the fact that I don't have a descriptor on my title page. I do for the picture. I do on the inside. But when I was holding the book up saying, this is the book I've written, a lot of the groups that I belong to said, we actually can't publish this because it doesn't have a written descriptor of what that picture is.
Wow.
And I went, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot about the one on the outside cover, because I have written descriptions for every picture inside.
I noticed that, yes.
So, and that's done deliberately to make it accessible for people who can't decipher pictures. So, in terms of accessibility, I try to be as accommodating and accessible as possible, using larger print, using a nice big font, that sort of thing, and using the captioning and various other things that I embedded just subtly into the book. In terms of the languaging, it's a little bit of a catch-22, because when you try to change your language and your word usage to suit every every region, where are you? My voice as an author has to be the one that's presented in the book. So as much as I tried to not be regional, and what that meant for me was when I was talking about things like the social assistance programs or social welfare or things like that, I had to use broad terms, and I had to edit myself when I was describing how things work here. I, in my first draft, used, ODSP does blah, 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 blah. And I went, okay, edit that out. And I had to just broaden things out, and it was use broad strokes rather than go very narrow and specific. But I had to make sure to always keep my voice first and foremost, or I'm not being authentic to myself.
Right. I just noticed something really interesting with the caption of the picture from the cover. So on the cover is pictured you sitting on an adult tricycle outside a building. You're in front of a landscape garden with flowers and trees, smiling, wearing a white top and floral skirt and no shoes. Now that's the engineer's description, but you added an extra little bit in.
That's fine.
Because she can only feel the left pedal barefoot. If I had just seen this photo, if I had just seen this photo without seeing the caption, it didn't strike me until just now that, yeah, you were barefooted. But without that caption, I wouldn't have had the reason. Unless you went in further in the book and described.
Right.
the reason why you couldn't feel the pedal. It almost completes, because I've still got vision, thankfully, that completes the experience for me, because now I can not only do I understand the meaning behind the picture, but I also have a deeper understanding of you. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even past the copyright notices. Right.
And that was important for me because I wanted to fully explain I've never been able to ride a bike.
Right.
And when we got this adult tricycle, it was a big deal for me. You have no idea how big of a deal it was for me to be able to sit on a trike.
Right.
That didn't look like a little child's toy and try to ride it. But I found out very quickly that the only way that I can successfully pedal is barefoot.
Huh.
Because I have very little feeling on the left side from the hip down.
Mm.
So I have very little control of my feet.
Right.
So in order to pedal, which now I do like a maniac, it's great. It has to be with my socks and shoes off.
That's your workaround.
But that's my workaround.
Yep. Again, one of those barriers that you just found another way around.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That is... I mean, when I first started bicycling, that was my freedom. That was my first bit of freedom. I could actually go somewhere at a decent rate of speed. Something I didn't realize, I think I talked about Sharon Kovac about this, but it's in a talk I'm working on. I want to do a few more momondays because they're so much fun, aren't they?
They're fun.
But the one that I'm working on right now is all about some of the, I call it body quirks. Mm-hmm. Because disability is not the best term for them. I'll give you a perfect example. I've got a membership to the YMCA, and it's a membership for the Men's Plus area, which is adults only. And I don't know, you've probably been spared the horrors of being in a change room with a bunch of older guys, but they generally view clothing as rather optional.
Oh, gosh.
Right. But I've got these glasses that I can take off whenever I want to. And thanks to the astigmatism, I can't see a thing. I just see vague outlines right now. Right. So I get to choose whether or not to experience Oktoberfest in high definition.
Nice.
So in that context, what one would consider a disability or a quirk, my poor vision, is actually a huge competitive advantage because I can choose to not see things I don't want to see. I can take my eyes off.
Oh my God, I've got a good one for you.
Yeah?
A quirk, okay? The fact that I have very little feeling from the hip down on my left side.
Right.
Okay. When I was in elementary school, we were talking about elementary school a few minutes ago, the kids used to tease me. And they used to try to kick me. I know, it's bullying and all that jazz, and it's wrong. But the funniest thing was they used to try to kick my left foot, my left leg, which I can't feel. Oh. And I couldn't feel it at all back then because, one, I had a leg brace up to my knee, and two, I had absolutely no feeling back then. So, the kids were coming up and kicking me, and I'm standing there going, okay, who's next? Bring it on.
That probably messed with their heads a little bit.
Yeah, and they're like, what the hell's wrong with her? This is supposed to hurt. And I'm going, you goofballs. In my head, I'm going, well, if you'd only try the other leg, but I'm not going to tell you that. You know? Yeah. So
They're thinking, oh my God, she's invulnerable. What do we do now?
yeah, exactly. She's superhuman. Oh, shit.
I had a moment like that where I realized that, so because I wasn't the most physical person in the world, I had to develop my verbal and written skills. Yeah. Well, we can start wrapping up if you like.
Whatever.
Yeah. But one of the things I learned was that that I was a much bigger kid when I was a big kid. Like I was always overweight. But what I learned this once, that I could use it to my advantage, but it was also paired with my intellect.
Okay.
So I had this one kid that was constantly bullying me. Mm-hmm. And then one day, and he had a bit of a learning disability, really, really struggled to read. Mm-hmm. And he was going at me about weight, and we were in gym class, and I whipped around to him and I said, well, at least, and this was grade 8. Mm-hmm. And I whipped around and said, well, at least I don't struggle with C-spot run.
Oh, this.
Oh, big time. And he was pissed right off.
Oh, this.
And just, I realized that, okay, I found the button that gets at him. And so I really dug in and hammered at that.
Oh, you didn't push that button again and again.
And again in a span of a few minutes. And then, because he realizes that his verbal insults aren't working on me anymore, he kicks me really hard in the shin. And I stand there, and it hurts, but I stand there and smile, and I realize that as long as I'm not in the wrong, I'm going to come out on top.
Yeah.
So I need to now attract attention to myself. And so I yelled at his face and said, "Is that the best you can do?" And laughed as loud as I could.
Nice.
Which got the teacher's attention just as he was lining up for another go. And he couldn't. And that was the day that the bullying stopped.
Yeah.
Was the day that I realized that my words could do so much more damage than anything physical.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying that if you're being bullied, turn around and bully the other person. What I am saying is, once I learned to stick up for myself, it changed things.
Yeah, you have more power than you think.
Oh, big time. We all do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a story that it's not one that I'm necessarily, I feel kind of, well, there's a certain amount of pride in that I figured out how to stand up for myself. Mm-hmm. I don't like hurting people as a rule. Mm-hmm. In this case, it felt more like an exception.
Yeah. Yep.
So, where can people find your book?
Okay. Mostly, I'm going to say go to my publisher's website, which is www.friesen That's RFRIESEN press.com, and order it from there. I will put it on my website as soon as I can, but I haven't done that yet because my website's being tweaked at the moment.
And it says on the back of your book that it is also available in ebook and audiobook format?
That's correct.
Wow. You've got an audiobook?
Yes.
Oh, dude, I'm downloading that. I am so downloading that. I love my audiobooks. Did you narrate it?
I did not.
Oh, okay. But that's awesome, though. It's you're one of only a few people I know that have actually gone to the effort to do the audiobook format.
Yes, yes.
So that is awesome. So friesenpress.com. Let me see here. FRIESEN press.com. Are you on the social medias?
I am forever on Facebook. You can catch me on Facebook, Twitter, not so much on Instagram, but LinkedIn.
Okay.
LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook are my 3.
I'll make sure those get posted to the show notes when the show gets uploaded.
Yep.
Awesome. Any parting thoughts?
Just that anybody who has a disability, just know that you are valuable in this world. You have a lot to offer, and you are more powerful than you think. And we don't need to be arrogant to be powerful.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Tara, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Dear listener, we love you, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to go check and see if the live stream survived.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to Let's Solve the Universe. This podcast can be heard every Saturday at lstupodcast.com. For more information about Let's Solve the Universe, head over to our Facebook page, Let's Solve the Universe Podcast, or check out the Let's Solve the Universe website because you know you want to. Complete show notes and information about all our guests can be found there. And I thank you, dear listener, for sharing your time with us. And we'll talk to you next Saturday.